Growing up, I have consumed a lot of media that has, for lack of a better word, been bad. Wait, wasn't this a Minecraft video? I grew up in an age where first-person shooters were the norm, yelling at strangers on the internet was a rite of passage, and emotional ambiguity in media was just really cool. But as I have expanded my emotional repertoire, if you will, there are subtle messages placed into these pieces of media that aren't so stoic. As a kid, I never picked up on them. I just saw these protagonists as manly men, and I wanted to be like them. But as an adult, now I understand that maybe there is more happening below the surface. However, when I say Minecraft, these are likely not archetypes you think of. And when I say Minecraft parody, these are definitely not archetypes you think of. Yet, when revisiting one of my favorite Minecraft parodies of all time for the nostalgic kick, cause why else, I noticed that not only are there some quite adult themes present, but a deeply internal struggle about what it means to be a man and a leader. No, seriously, I'm not kidding. So join me on a journey that starts with me being a kid, continues with me analyzing a Minecraft parody, and ends with me questioning what it even means to be a man. What is Fallen Kingdom really about? Released on April 1st, 2012, Fallen Kingdom has garnered over 166 million views and solidified itself as one of the most influential YouTube videos ever made. If you were a kid when this came out, chances are it found its way into your feed in one way or another. When I recall my first time watching this video, I remember being shocked at how emotional it was. I didn't quite understand the underlying themes back then, but I still felt them. And revisiting this video now, I realize that there are some incredibly adult motifs ironically placed in a video made for kids. Let me show you what I mean.
Alright, what's going on, dudes, and welcome to Maya. This time we're going to be doing a little behind the scenes for at least the animation portion of Fallen Kingdom, because that was sort of my whole dealio as far as what I was involved with. But I had lots of help this time, and David is joining me in the call, or Bootstrap Buckaroo, as you may know him, and we're just going to take a look at some of the scenes and see what's up, and what went into making the visuals happen.
Fallen Kingdom tells the story of a king revisiting the kingdom which he once ruled, years after it was mysteriously destroyed. The king walks the corridors of his fallen empire as his memories reveal to us an inner dichotomy within him, a tear between being a rock for his people and a coward to himself. On the one hand, he wants to be known as a leader, and on the other, he simply wants to retreat from it all. It is within this way of being that, as we come to see, leads to the kingdom falling to ruin. We are both shown him at his best and at his worst, all within just a few minutes. Whenever I watch this, I'm always shocked at just how expressive the king is with his body language and facial expressions. This is a Minecraft parody, and yet I still understand that his face lights up with enthusiasm while also subtly hinting at a darker feeling underneath, a lack of confidence and a question of his own state of being. I cannot stress enough how before its time this animation style is. Up to this point, Minecraft animations were basically just in-game assets with light editing layered on top. The idea of actually bringing a Minecraft character to life, a blocky, non-expressive avatar, was an incredibly difficult challenge, a challenge that still is being failed today. And then you add on top of that the fact that this protagonist actually is feeling something internally, something that isn't being expressed on the surface. It's really impressive and holds up after all these years beautifully. Seriously, I recommend rewatching this video if you haven't, it's amazing. Of course, the most adult moment of this entire video is its unforgettable ending. After the kingdom is broken into by evil Jack Black and a bunch of mobs, the king is forced to retreat into his castle. We see him try and fight, but rather than standing beside his men as they turn into XP, he abandons them. We see him try to escape out the back of the castle with his wife and child, but a creeper detonates the bridge they try to cross, separating them. He looks over his shoulder, hesitates only for a moment, and leaves them behind. Trapped at the top of a watchtower, not even looking over the ledge, he salutes, leans back, and falls. Over a decade later, I see the story completely different than the way I did as a kid. When I first saw this, I thought he legit died. I didn't quite understand how he was just recalling all of the story in the present day. It kinda went over my head. I felt as though he had no other choice, that he tries his best to be a good king, but in the end the villain of the story won. Herobrine win. A simple story that fit my interpretation of, quote, sad media. There's explicit emotion of defeat, but no implicit emotion beyond the event that is occurring. Evil Jack Black is evil, and now everyone is sad because evil Jack Black succeeded. Darn. It sounds silly, probably especially to those of you who were too young to experience this video when it first came out, but Herobrine was one of the most terrifying concepts to my generation back then. We were too young to understand what fake even really was on the internet, and seeing him in this parody immediately pushed me towards wanting to just blame everything on him. He was my childhood representation of pure evil, as cringe as that sounds now. It was way easier to understand than a man falling into his self-doubt and eventually abandoning everyone that he loves, serving as an allegory for men's mental health and the paradox of leadership versus emotional well-being. I cannot believe that themes of toxic masculinity and a fucking Minecraft parody intertwined, but here we are. Anyway, as an adult, well, as adult as one can be writing a video essay about a Minecraft parody, I see this moment, the falling scene, as less of a physical death for the king, and more so as the death of an idea. In his last moment, between deciding to fight or flee after giving up everything he loves, the king decides to fall. He chooses death over leadership, cowardice over heroism, and fully retreats into selfishness. I want to make it clear that I don't necessarily define him as these traits because of his decisions, but I believe that this is what he thinks of himself based on his recollection of these events later on in the story. Seriously, we're going in deep here, just get ready. Regardless of if he survives the fall or not, both him and the audience know that he will never be king again.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
To be completely honest, they should have just left the series here. It offers a unique perspective of the flawed protagonist, one who never overcomes his personal demons and ends his story in ambivalence, the same ambivalence in which it started. But later on, Captain Sparkles and his team would change the story slightly, showing how the king was actually just trying to keep Herobrine away from the end for some reason, I guess, and was actually a hero making his daunting escape into a water pool below. To each their own, I guess. But as great as this all is, Fallen Kingdom would not be successful with just a story like this. Alright, first and foremost, let's point out the obvious. Fallen Kingdom is a parody of Coldplay's Viva La Vida, not only one of their most popular songs, but also one that defined the feeling of the early 2010s. That string chord progression has and will continue to stand the test of time. Honestly though, I actually like Fallen Kingdom more. To avoid the evil copyright overlords, I want to focus on how Captain Sparkles and his team took a song about a king whose people turned on him, and turned it into a song about a king who turned on himself. For example, in Coldplay's Viva La Vida, the lyrics state, quote, "It was a wicked and wild wind, blew down the doors to let me in, shattered windows and the sound of drums. People couldn't believe what I had become." But in Fallen Kingdom, the lyrics were changed to, quote, "One minute we had it all, next our world began to fall, away from all that it had once become. They all cried for my help, but I stood there numb." Notice the use of I statements and we statements between the two. Viva La Vida is about a king who's perplexed his people could hate him. Fallen Kingdom is about a king who's perplexed his people loved him at all. Something that I really appreciate about Fallen Kingdom is how it takes advantage of the instrumental breaks in Viva La Vida's structure to progress the story. The repetitive string motif that we hear the whole piece creates a strong foundation for the visuals to take center stage. We're gonna come back to those strings, so just sit tight for a sec. Almost all of the video's most emotional moments occur during these instrumental breaks, where the audience naturally has time to digest the story before the lyrics come back in to state the king's emotions explicitly. It allows for self-interpretation and helps explain the difference in how people interpret this story differently. Wait, the music stopped? That means we could go off the deep end. Yes! we are really getting into the weeds here, but just hear me out. I think that the use of string instruments and the music represents the king and royalty. From a music history standpoint, string instruments are often associated with kings and queens because they were basically the only ones who could actually afford them to be played in their halls. Aristocracy and classical music heavily tie into one another, and string instruments are the iconic sound of that relationship. I think Coldplay knew this when writing Viva La Vida, maybe not consciously, but they did consciously choose to have that motif played by strings. So when the strings cut out, it tells our ears that royalty is diminishing or perhaps gone entirely. It's actually really clever. We've lost the tonal basis of this piece. The string motif that we hear the whole song will cut out every now and then, and it shifts the focus. It's actually really clever. Now, in Fallen Kingdom, an electronic bass and kick is also used to add a sense of pulse and textural complexity to the piece. This is not present in Viva La Vida, and I don't think it was intentionally meant to represent anything, and honestly I think it was a substitution for some of the instruments that Coldplay used that wouldn't effectively cross over to the digital audio interface. However, what this electronic undercurrent ends up doing is contributing to the digital world in which this story takes place. It helps cross the boundary between monarchical strings and a game about placing blocks. In other words, it's atmospheric, even if done without the intention. So we have strings that represent the monarchy, and we have the electronics that represent digital media. Keep these both in mind as we watch the climax of this song.
If this battle should leave me slain, I know Harold will call my name. Better to take a stand. And that was when I ruled the land.
It subconsciously breaks down the barrier of digitization and then subconsciously tells us that the king, the monarchy, is gone. We are only left with the vocals at the end of the piece as the king literally falls into his own self-despair. It's just so good. Hopefully, if you've made it this far in the video, you've learned something new. You've seen a layer added to this parody that you may have not thought of. I know I certainly have just by diving into what this parody even is. But let's be brutally honest here. The themes that I've discussed in this video are definitely a little over-adult for something as silly as a Minecraft parody. The ending is kind of funny, the memes are great, and for most people, this parody is nothing more than its genre. Most of this video's success can be tied to the fact that it caught a trend that ended up basically defining YouTube, being the rise of Minecraft as a game. The reason you still remember it is because all of your memories attached to this time period in life probably have a nice rose-tinted filter applied to them, just like me. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with enjoying things that have come to pass. However, my counter to these thoughts though is that by analyzing this silly little parody, I have uncovered something deeply personal about myself that otherwise may have never been uncovered. Yes, my counter-argument here is entirely self-centered and blowing this way out of proportion, but seriously, I'm not kidding.
Hey guys, Chris here, and I'm doing a YouTube video. No, Chris, Mr. Muted, and I just spawned in a new world. It's just sorry about that, guys. It was just spinning off for a second. Okay. Let's get some wood, I guess.
When I first started writing this essay, I was coming at it from the perspective of a little kid trying to just figure out who he wanted to be. I couldn't really address it in any other way. That's exactly who I was at the time I first made Memories of Fallen Kingdom, and that is exactly who I was trying to be and trying to emulate when I was first writing about Fallen Kingdom. That kid with a question, an internal struggle. Fallen Kingdom is a great video and has some clever storytelling archetypes. That's where I was going to leave it. The world I grew up with was my heroes, and I wanted to be like them, simply put. That is, until I started reflecting beyond the scope of this parody. From noticing the king's internal struggle, it uniquely brought to light one of my own, bringing up a question that underscores the media icons I wanted to take after growing up. What does it mean to be a man. I have consumed media over my entire life that has showed me that stoicism was how you save the world, and that by being a badass, things would eventually work out. Bravery, strength, and above all discipline were how you became someone everyone around you could count on. But as I grew up and tried to put those concepts into place, it never really felt right. I couldn't just leave my emotions at home, my questions and my weaknesses, and feel good about it. I also certainly didn't look the part. That isn't to say I didn't try. I desperately wanted to play football growing up, and when I was younger, I really struggled to grasp the concept that maybe someone could just break me in half like a toothpick if they hit me, and also that it's okay to be introspective sometimes. On the one hand, I wanted to be a leader and the man that everyone could look up to. But on the other, sometimes I just wanted to be emotionally understood. I wanted to be a man without everything that being a man brings with it. Now, over a decade after this silly little parody was created, I analyze it and realize that I am becoming a man in a way my child self could never understand. It isn't as simple as bravery and strength, it's so much more than that, and I desperately wish that maybe if I went back in time I could chat with myself and tell him that it's gonna be okay. To just be me.
Dang it, I hate the shotgun guys, they suck.
That I could have the ability to still enjoy the badass narratives thrown around in media, to watch football on Sundays and talk shit with my dad, while also having the ability to bring emotion into the way I perceive art, memories, and friendship. When I revisit nostalgia, I see these complex stories beyond the confines of their simple foundations. I see that Fallen Kingdom's protagonist has an internal struggle. I see that Master Chief wears a burden unlike any other. I see that giant robots fighting one another is just really, really cool. And I see the reflection in my monitor and the man I have become. Perhaps this internal struggle of mine is exactly what being a man is. And I'm okay with that. Hey, thanks so much for watching. By the way, before we head out, did you know I have a Minecraft server? Yes, that's right. You can find out more with the link in the description, join my Discord server, and there you can find the IP and all the info you need to join our Minecraft server. We haven't even gotten to the end yet, so seriously, now is the perfect time to join. Very active community, very Hermitcraft based. It's a ton of fun. So hope to see you there. Check out these other videos on screen that are popping up. Hopefully now I can never time this right, but that's fine. And yeah, that's about it. Happy holidays. Enjoy yourselves. Talk to you later.